Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at a Bachmann steam locomotive. It's the 060 USRA steam locomotive from Bachmann. It's equipped with DCC and Economi Sound from Soundtracks. One of my favorite decoders, definitely in the top few decoders. Economi is usually great, so we'll see how it stands up in this review. And Steam from Bachmann is usually good price, so we'll see what the pricing is with the quick stats that we bring up at the beginning of the video and see how this operates starting right now. Alright, let's unbox this locomotive. We're going to pull the tab from the end here. Pardon the arm here. And inside, as far as manual goes, got quite a few things. There's a DCC quick start guide. So that is a few pages of information, including some of the limited functions of the Economi decoder. There's also exploded parts diagrams going over any parts that may be missing, the numbers, so you can contact Bachmann to order those parts if needed. There's a 1-year limited warranty for Bachmann locomotives and a 90-day accessory warranty. More parts diagrams for the tender as well. And last but not least, you can order a full color Bachmann catalog with over 300 pages by mailing that in with a check for $13. Here is the locomotive itself. I'm going to remove the tender, which is separate from the locomotive. It's not connected, and set that aside and take a closer look. Alright, so if we swing the steam locomotive around, up front you've got the smoke box door with the latches that are molded in, LED headlight. There's a number on the bottom. It's not a number board, but the cab number or the locomotive number is there below the headlight. You've got a drop step, Easy Mate 2 couplers from Bachmann, the smokestack, the sand and boiler domes, and you've also got a whistle that's separately applied along with a bell that have metallic color, and safety valve as well back here. Grab irons along the side rod detail with the piston, and you also have the firebox rivet detail below the cab. 4754 is clear and legible there on the locomotive. And you have 2-position drawbar on this steam locomotive as well. A little hard to tell what's going on inside, so I'll turn on a light, but I believe there may be some boiler backhead detail molded in, yes. You may see that there with the butterfly doors. Maybe a little different door, but there's some molded detail in back there, along with 2 windows on the rear. And along the other side of the locomotive itself, there is a dynamo that's separately applied, and more of the same in terms of detail along the side, and a coupler cut bar on the front as well. So there's your quick 360 of the locomotive. Let's take a closer look at the tender. Here's a quick 360 of the tender. You've got the female plug, male plugs on the locomotive, and then the bar for the drawbar. Like I said, 2-position drawbar. There's the doors for the coal load access. There is, I guess, a water hatch up here, so water storage. Union Pacific along the side. There is rivet detail, a little hard to catch with all that black, but at a certain angle you can see it. There's also separately applied grab irons for crews to hold on to as they're navigating around the tender. On the rear, drop steps again, Easy Mate 2 coupler, ladder, rear LED light, I believe is operational, and a water hatch up top. So overall, that is the tender detail. And there's also even some brake cylinder detail on the bottom, and you can see the speaker is there for the sound to come out of. And here's a look directly from the top. So I can do the same thing with the locomotive for you. If you want to see the bottom, there's the bottom of the locomotive, and you can see that male connector to the tender, and there's the top of the locomotive. All right, I finally bought a scale that you can actually see the weight with me as I go along. So we'll weigh these together because they should never be separate in operation. 10.7 ounces, so 302 grams. So you're almost 70% of the way to a pound on these locomotive and tender combo. So let's take a look at some more testing. From here we can do the NMRA wheel gauge test. Those are all in gauge. And we'll check the tender, because that can't be forgotten. People sometimes ask why we do this. If they're engaged, they're fine, obviously. If they're not, they're going to cause problems, mostly in switches and possibly turn areas. So it's important to have the NMRA wheels engaged. This is definitely an interesting locomotive. It's 060, so it's just resting on 6 drivers with 0 lead trucks and 0 trailing trucks. So that's where you get the 060 from, because usually there's at least 2 lead trucks and 2 trailing trucks, but this one's just kind of hanging out. That cab there is kind of floating for you out in the wide open spaces, but this was a real locomotive, so it's not like Bachmann just invented this. Let's take a look at coupler height here. That appears to be dead on, and we're going to back that up and couple, and yeah, it is a dead fit on the rear, even though I just derailed it in the process of uncoupling it. So now we'll check the front. Right now we're looking at the front. The locomotive does not like to be pushed along manually. It kind of unbuckles the drawbar. That's actually sitting a little low and coupled up. Seems to do better and more even, but it was sitting a little low freestanding, so I'll let you be the judge on that one. But overall, I think this is pretty much NMRA compliant. Gonna go ahead and group all the testing together and do the pull test now. Okay, we're pulling at about 1.1 ounces. So that's about 15 to 17 regular size freight cars, but this is a switcher steam locomotive, so not a whole lot to be expected with the traction of just those 3 drivers. We're going to set our AccuTrack 2 speedometer and get a reading at 1 scale mile an hour. You can pay close attention to the smoothness of the operation, because it is set at 1 speed step out of 128. Now I know the AccuTrack 2 speedometer shows a status light down by kilometers per hour, but it is in scale miles per hour. That's a setup feature you do ahead of time. That little light you see is just an indicator that blinks when it's waiting to read. It goes solid when it's reading, and then when it's finished reading, it puts out the speed, which in this case is 1.1 scale mile an hour. Very good for right out of the box configuration variable start voltage. Here's another quick look at 1 scale mile an hour going forward. I will say, with a short wheelbase like this, you're going to end up having problems if you don't have powered frogs, which I do not, so you can expect probably a track interruption of power and the locomotive to stall out in the process. But you can see very smooth at 1 scale mile an hour. There's a total of 8 functions listed in the manual, the quick start guide. You go to Steam diesel settings, and you have 0, which is headlight, pretty much universal. You do hear that dynamo spin up there. Speaking of sound, you're going to have obviously the chuff sound from this locomotive. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit to capture more of this, but you hear that dynamo spun up there. That is also a sound that goes with the headlight. Here's the bell. Really nice bell sound. I like that a lot. Whistle. Also really like the whistle. Short whistle is 3. 4 is steam release. You have to hit it again to stop it. 5 is NA on steam. 6 is smoke if equipped. This one is not. 7 is dimmer for that Rule 17 lighting. Well, maybe not. Sounds like it just maybe turned the sound off there. Or somehow functioned 8, but I don't see 7 doing anything particular here. Or it will just simply change the light when it's moving and not moving. No, I don't see a function for 7, but it's listed as dimmer, and 8 is mute. So there are your functions for the locomotive. I really do like Economi Sound. It's budget price, but it sounds great. I know there's limited 8 functions versus your 28 functions, but I love the sound of Economi, and I wish they put it in more things. So I think it really suits this steam locomotive well. Now when you change the directions, you got the reverser, you can hear the clunk there, and you have the rear light go on. So rear light does not have, looks like it is responsive actually to 7, where the front doesn't appear to be. So the rear light does have a dimmer effect. So let me show you that real quick. See, hitting F7 there dims and brightens the rear light. So F7 does have a dimmer effect after all. So with that said, we've gone over all the features of this locomotive, all 8 functions, drive, and all of the NMRA testing. So let's wrap up this review with some final thoughts. Well, I think this locomotive is a great value. I think it's well executed from Bachmann. Everything from details that are nice enough but aren't very fragile. Matter of fact, I dropped the tinder a little bit when I unbox things. People say I'm very chaotic unboxing stuff, and I was in this case. And everything was fine, no broken parts, so I can really appreciate not a huge amount of detail that has durability. The smooth drive, I mean, pulling in at 1.1 scale miles an hour on that drive, on that Accutrack speedometer at 1 scale mile an hour on my NCE Pro Cab out of 128 was great. Beautiful color to the LED headlight and tail light, and I love the sound and smooth operation at 1 speed step too. Steamers, especially short steamers, it's really difficult to get a smooth operation at slow speeds. I don't know if it's just the size, what they're dealing with. The engineers are dealing with the space inside the locomotive to make that smooth, but it was very smooth. So overall, a well-executed locomotive, and a really neat locomotive to have on your layout for steam switching, or just the steam fans that wants unique steam locomotives, especially the short ones. It seems like you can appreciate the details a little more. With that said, I'm going to leave you with a run-by of this locomotive. I don't really have anything era-specific to pull it with, so maybe we'll let it run by itself, and we'll see you next time right here on the channel. Take care.